Hello, and welcome to our artist reception for the upcoming Artburst Studio show, Stories We Tell. I'm Jennifer Steck, a member of the Artburst leadership team and the host for tonight's meeting. Tonight, we're thrilled to have with us Rebecca Sower, Laurie Mika, Dianna Fritzler, Lisa Call, Caitlin Zeller, Jon Koenigsberg, Dorothy Mohler, Bryan Holland, Jane Pellicciotto, Terry Scopes, Susan Gunther, Janine Pinnell, and myself. I'm going to show my art tonight too, which is kind of cool. So I have my fellow leadership team member, Jennifer Yazzo, with me, and Rebecca Berman is behind the scenes as our technical wizard. Jennifer, as I said, the artists have, oh my goodness, they have been preparing for months and months for this show.
We have an incredible lineup of artists for the Stories We Tell show. Again, it starts in just 1 week, which is I can't believe it's already here. We're so excited to open the virtual doors and welcome both returning art lovers and those who are brand new to the Artburst family.
Now, if you happen to be new to Artburst shows, there are a few things you should know. First of all, it's really easy to participate. When the show opens on the Artburst website, head to the site, find the art you love, put it in your cart, check out, and your favorite artist will ship your new treasure to you. Pricing is set, so there's no bidding or haggling. You can actually pop into the show, purchase the pieces that you want, and get about your business. Now, you don't need to worry about weather or traffic because you can literally attend the show from the comfort of your own home and purchase high-quality art in your comfiest pajamas and bunny slippers. So here are a few things you can do after the reception. We don't want you to leave now because all of the exciting stuff is starting shortly. But after the reception, sign up for a free account if you don't have one already. Subscribers and those with an account receive a link to preview the show page 24 hours in advance of the show opening, so you can create your wish list and plan your strategy. Now, if you want even earlier access, you can sign up for our Collector Plus program to receive a downloadable full color catalog right now. The catalog has been released.
It can be pretty exciting when the show starts and art lovers from all over the world come rushing in. Actually, it's more than pretty exciting. It's crazy exciting. To make sure it's fun for you and not overwhelming exciting, we have a few additional tips to share. Number 1, log in before the show starts so that you're not looking for your password, you don't remember your information, you're logged in, you're ready to go. And then at exactly 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, hit refresh and refresh your browser and you'll begin. Once in, you can sort the art by price, by title of the piece, by artist. And if you're in a hurry to get a piece you really want, you can just go right through that filter and find it. Once you found it, put it in your cart, and then we recommend checking out right away. Because if you don't, and you go back and you look at more art and then you wait, somebody else can take that piece and put it in their cart and check out ahead of you. And we don't want you to be disappointed. Artists will be in touch after the show closes to coordinate shipping of your artwork. And those are our tips.
Yes. Okay, so let's get back to why we're all here tonight. And let's meet the artists. So Jennifer's going to head behind the scenes with Rebecca. We are so excited tonight to be joined by Rebecca Sower. Now, Rebecca, this is your first show with Artburst.
It is. Yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, we're so excited too. We're lucky enough as members of the leadership team to have seen all the artwork behind the scenes. That's kind of a bonus. And your collection is stunning.
Thank you.
So I know you like to work in layers.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your process and how pieces develop?
I work in 2 different ways, and I have submitted for this show 2 different kind of types of art. I'm a long line of quilting family, so I'm always going to have some pieces that have a lot of that feel and that look, a lot of stitching and that kind of thing. So that's a different one. But if I'm going to be just creating a painting, I start with just a lot of marks and lines, and then that just builds up, and I'll have several going at one time. And so as the process continues, and then a lot of the times I love anything with a face, so it's gonna, become a rabbit or a person or a deer or whatever. So
Oh, we absolutely adore the critters and the characters and so on in your paintings. But you also have some pieces, as you said, that feel very much like a quilt, like a patchwork quilt.
Mhm.
Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, absolutely. I create everything from scratch. So it's going to, any paper I use in those pieces is going to either be a monoprint, a hand drawing, or something that I've created myself. Every now and then, a little bit of vintage paper may sneak in or a photo, but I love pulling all those pieces together, the composition, and everything goes onto like a 300-pound watercolor paper. So they're very durable, very sturdy. And then my husband builds actually the shadow box frames that they end up in. So yeah, those are some of my actually best collected pieces. And there's a lot of stitching that goes into those. So
They're lovely and they're framed and they're ready to hang.
they are.
One of the beautiful things that I don't think art lovers necessarily know about the website is that once you click through to one of Rebecca's pieces, that you can take your cursor and go over the pictures that she's uploaded, and it will magnify them so that you'll be able to see all those intricate details, including the stitches. And so, wait, do you have
I
something?
do. I have one right here, so I'll try. I don't know if you can see it very well, but like you can see this, it's the heavy.
Wow.
One of I think my indigo quilt, this one is called, but gold leaf, botanical prints. Of course, I live right next to a 35,000 acre wildlife refuge. So all those things come into my art. I'm very inspired by that.
Oh my goodness. And then you have some smaller pieces as well.
Hmm. And these I'm actually selling as a collection. So these will all go, it's just a little flock of birds. So these will all go as one piece. I love the idea of, hanging these together. There are six of this particular one, or buy the lot, and then, you've got wonderful gifts for, friends or things in the future. But yeah, I sell a lot of little birds. Birds are pretty special to me.
Yeah, can you talk just briefly about the painting on the door?
My yellow door.
Yeah.
Sure. She is just, I guess my nature girl is how I would refer to her. I love to draw faces, and so I feel like her expression feels strong and soft, but also she just is surrounded by a lot of, I've got a lot of kind of watery metallic paints in that one that feel very natural. So I kind of consider her to be pretty calming and just something beautiful.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's lovely. We are just delighted that you're here for the show, and we are so excited for everybody to see your collection, Rebecca. So
Thank
thank you for
you.
joining us.
Of course, absolutely.
And welcome, Laurie.
First of all, I want to thank you so much, Jennifer, for inviting me back, especially for this show with the theme of stories we tell, because that just speaks to me because I have a lot of narrative content in my work. So I was just delighted to come back and be with so many awesome artists that are included in the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, you're right. There's so many awesome artists, you being one of them for sure. So we were excited that you were joining us. Now, you were with us a year ago when Artburst Studios first launched.
Yes.
And so as we look here a year later, isn't it amazing? A year later, how has your artwork grown and changed in that year's time?
Well, the amazing thing is that I had started kind of down this totally different path, just kind of an evolutionary, difference in the style. And it really kind of started, I would say, during the pandemic, but for sure by last year's show, I was already kind of marching down this path of just beginning to use AI in some of the imagery that I was using, and kind of breaking away from doing the mixed media mosaics that I was known for, with all these small little pieces and whatever, and working larger and working with kind of more figurative, with a lot of female figures that are predominant in the work, against these backgrounds that I also used AI in helping generate some of the images for that. Not only that, but some of them have photographs that I've taken at places I've traveled, that I have made background collage imagery for the pieces using my own personal photos as well.
I think what's so interesting about your work is the depth. And what I mean by that is I think that collectors will find that they're going to see something new every time they look at one of your pieces.
Oh, well, that's nice to hear. And I do think that, yeah, as I go forward with this, there is a theme, there's something going on, a story, and it just kind of evolves as I'm working on it. And, I have an idea, but then something will just jog and spark a new kind of a direction, and then I'll add that into it. And while it's narrative and there's messages and text and words, and especially for this show, there's a lot of text in my work. It hopefully, for me, it means something, but I'm hoping that the viewer, when they look at it, they bring their own experience to it, and it means something different for each person who is viewing the artwork. Yeah.
Now, do you have a piece that you'd like to share with us?
Yep, I have a couple of pieces, and they're kind of two different ones. The first one that I'm showing is this piece called Swan Song. I recently, this last year, kind of retired a little bit from teaching. I was previously on the road quite a bit, teaching at mixed media art retreats and different events, and down in Mexico, and every year down in San Miguel de Allende for the last 10 years. And I decided that it was about time to step away from a lot of the teaching that I was doing. So this is Swan Song. So it was kind of in remembrance of all the good years that I had being on the road and teaching. But I wanted to have more time in my studio to actually create artwork. I have found that not having the responsibilities of teaching and getting proposals together and coming up with class samples and all of that would allow for more time in my studio. So I've really appreciated that. And especially with your two Artburst shows, I needed a lot of time in my studio to come up with 10 to 12 new pieces of work. So I really appreciated having that extra time on my hands. This piece in particular, the reason I wanted to share it is that the entire thing is all polymer clay. So this is an image transfer here. And then the borders were done using molds, and it's embedded with jewels. And certainly through my life as an artist, for as long as I can remember, I've always been influenced by Renaissance art, medieval art, and kind of mixed with Mexican folk art, mixed into the mix as well. So a lot of the pieces have that sort of ancient look, but what I really love and am jazzed about now is using modern technology like AI and combining it to create a piece that has this kind of ancient medieval feel. So I'm kind of psyched about that. And it really, I have so many ideas for other pieces, and I can't wait to get going on them. And then, I work primarily on deep cradle panel boards, and the edges are all done. A lot of them, the design just carries over, gives it somewhat of a three-dimensional look as well. So that's Swan Song. And then the other one that I wanted to share, which definitely was inspired by the title of the show, The Stories We Tell, is this piece called Babel, which is a fairly large piece with a female figure in it. And there is all kinds of text and words and things in layers. It's kind of hard to read some of it. Others pieces come forward more clearly, the titles of some of the books that are on the shelf. This here actually came from a photograph that I took of this big kind of stone monolithic tablet that was in the Medieval Museum in Bologna this last year when I was there. And I took a picture of it, and then I was able to create this collage imagery. So, and then it wraps around to the side as well. And, it's Babel, so there's a lot of symbolism from the story from the Bible, as well as different sources like Borges from Argentina, his Library of Babel, with what appears to be kind of a library sort of place with this figure. And there's, the text is in both German and in Hebrew up there. So just a lot of messages related to Babel and to stories we tell.
Yes, yes. So stories that go back, gosh, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, all the way into the messaging of today. So, well, again, your collection is spectacular, Laurie, and we are so thrilled you're here. And we know art lovers will be excited to see everything.
Thank you so much. I'm just delighted to be a part of this show.
And now we have Dianna Fritzler. How are you, Dianna?
I'm good. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm great. This is so much fun. I just love hearing everybody talk about their work, and I can see some of your pieces behind you.
Yep, got a few here.
So how is it that you approached the Stories We Tell show?
For me, it was like a dream theme. Because honestly, I think as artists, we all have a story we're telling behind everything that we do, whether it's something that's super deep or religious or whatever. My message and my stories are all about exuberance and embracing life and brightness in life. So most of my images are from obviously things I've seen or places that speak to me that I want to share with other people. And hopefully they'll think of their own stories around these images and go, oh, that reminds me of. So it was really fun to create.
Yes. Well, and I can always see that in your work. I mean, your use of color, the use of textures and all of that are just really powerful. And they just send a really amazing message through. So do you have any pieces you want to share with us in particular?
I've got these, but I've got a little one right here that I thought I'd share with you. This is an oil and cold wax piece. And real quickly, if it's okay, I grabbed some cold wax to show people what that is.
Oh, that would be great.
Because a lot of people, and then I'll get back to that real quick, but a lot of people don't know what oil and cold wax is. So cold wax looks like Crisco in a can. This is what it looks like. And it's really goopy and fun. It is beeswax and a solvent for a little bit of softness, and then resin as a hardening agent. And so when you mix that with oil paint out of a tube, it becomes the consistency of frosting. And so at that point, I do not use brushes in most of my work. I use these things, which is a bowl scraper that you can dip in. And really what you do is you basically frost a panel. These are color shapers. I call them doohickeys because I can never remember the name of them. And same thing, you can just kind of layer on, you can dig in, all kinds of things and get some really cool texture with layers, layer after layer. So that's a quick synopsis of cold wax. So with this piece, I start each painting with a really vibrant underpainting. This one happens to be this turquoise blue that you see kind of showing through in different areas. And then I think you can see, can you see? Maybe not, the texture in it. It's very lumpy, bumpy, because you can lay on the cold wax very, very thickly and it will dry.
Oh, I love that. Well, and he has so much personality there.
Oh, yeah, my buddy. I love my cows. Love my cows. And they're all in a wooden panel and they're ready to hang.
Oh, sounds great. Well, we are thrilled that you're back with us, and we look forward to showing everybody your whole collection next Thursday. The show opens on February 22nd at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So make sure that you check one of those time calculators because you won't want to be late when the curtains open on the Artburst Studios website. So it's artburststudios.com. And Dianna, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Okay, my goodness, we have Lisa Call. Hi, Lisa.
Hey there.
I want you to tell everybody where you are because now this is a dedicated artist who wanted to tell her story tonight.
So I am in Kaiteriterri, which is one of the holiday towns on the North Island in New Zealand, and I'm in a campground. What? South Island. Sorry, I was just told. Just said that wrong. It's beautiful. I just went for a swim. My hair's still wet, and so we're here on holiday. Behind me on this side, trees over here. Camper van, so we sleep in a tent on the top of our van, and tomorrow we're going to go hike the Abel Tasman. So
Well, we are so excited that you're joining us from New Zealand, and you guys just finished a 5-day hike, didn't you?
we did. We hiked the Heafy, 78K. Yeah, I have the blisters to prove it.
Well, we can't wait to hear the stories about that. But in the meantime, I guess we should go ahead and talk about your art.
All right, fantastic.
Yes, yes. So excited that you're joining us. So you are a fiber artist. And what is it that you love about working in that medium?
I love the tactile nature of it. You know, when I have an exhibition, people always want to touch it, and that because it evokes a sense of touch. When you're looking at fabric, we want to touch it. We want to know what it feels like, and so it's very cool to work in a medium that brings in a different sense other than visual.
Yes. And do you dye your fabric or how does that?
I do dye all of my fabric. I start with a white, a really dense woven Pimatex fabric, and I dye all of it in 1-yard pieces using these fiber reactive dyes. And so that's my palette. So whatever I have, the colors I dye, and I don't use formulas or anything. I just dump, just kind of don't measure anything and create quite a bit of yardage of fabric. And then I use that and cut out shapes and stick them on my wall. My wall is covered in flannel, so they stick. And then I move them around. It's like my version of an easel is to have a wall covered in flannel.
The additional layer of beauty. So you have the dyed fabric, and then you add so much stitching to the top of that. So talk about how that kind of evolves from there.
I started out as a traditional quilt maker 40 years ago, and it has evolved over time. And while I have always been attracted to fairly spare, abstract compositions, so simple compositions, so a few lines where really you're focused on beautiful proportions, where things are really, they feel harmonious. I started adding some stitching because I'm like, well, there's these big open spaces. And so the stitching has become more important for me, and adding layers and layers of stitching. And so I will do multiple layers of stitching over the top. And I view it somewhat like doing color washes if you're doing painting. So this like a thin layer of color wash. So I shift the color of the fabric by doing layers of stitching over the top of it.
Oh, I love the stitching and the additional depth and texture that it lends to every piece. Now, do you have a piece
I did bring a piece. I managed to, we've been protecting it, moving it around in the van as we're going. So it's wrapped up. So you can't quite see all of the stitching, but you can see some of the color shifts are a result of just the stitching over the top of the piece. And they're all mounted on canvas. I stitched through the canvas. You can see the stitch lines through the canvas. So it hangs like a regular painting because it's just a stretch canvas, but the fabric is mounted on there and permanently mounted by being stitched on there.
I love your color choices as well. And like you said, the shapes on some of those are just the stitching in many ways covering over the other shapes that are on the fabric, which is, I mean, it's such a beautiful abstracted concept all of the way through. I mean, you have 12 pieces, don't you? Or 10 pieces?
I think there's 10.
10 pieces.
Yeah.
So they are incredible. And
Thank you.
the beauty of them for art lovers too is, as you said, they're ready to hang. So when you purchase one of Lisa's pieces, you will be able to go and when she sends it to you, you can hang it on your wall. So enjoy the rest of your vacation, Lisa.
We're gonna go swim again.
That sounds great. Well, and you'll be back in time for the show. And
Absolutely.
if anybody has any questions, could they email you now? And
They can email me now. I'm checking my email every day, so they can email me anytime.
I can't wait to see pictures when you get back.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. And going from stitching, we're going to talk a little bit about embroidery stitching with Caitlin Zeller. Hello, Caitlin.
Hi, Jennifer.
How are you?
Good. I'm good. Yeah. It's nice to have the fiber artist right back to back. We're very different, but yeah.
I know, it's just there's something really cool about the detail in all of the stitching that it adds to a beautiful piece. Now, Caitlin is another one of our artists that joined us a year ago. And what's changed for you in the last year?
I have a baby who's 10 months old, and it's definitely a change. My pieces are all a lot smaller for this show than they were last year because I have slightly less time on my hands.
I know, but you probably have a lot of inspiration, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yes. So Caitlin's pieces are so intricate and beautiful. What all is included in each piece?
Most of them have the basis of yarn and embroidery. Some of them have found objects that I've included. I'm a metalsmith originally, so I also have metal elements that I created in some of the other pieces as well. So yeah, all sorts of things. Mostly yarn and embroidery thread, but all sorts of other things as well.
These are definitely going to be pictures you're going to want to zoom in on the website when the show goes live, because I don't know how you do it, but creating stitches so small and then building those layers up to really create those beautiful shapes. I mean, it's got to require a lot of advanced planning, I would guess.
It does. I only plan the pieces out so much because I want them to look like they grew, whether it's coral or moss or have an organic feel to it, that it just kind of sprouted up here and there. So I kind of sketch out a very vague plan, and then from there I just fill in pieces around other pieces.
Oh,
and then go back in and rework other ones that need more.
So one of your inspirations for the majority of your pieces is nature. Can you talk about that component of it?
I've always found a lot of inspiration in the natural world, trying to find and capture the little details that people overlook. I just want to kind of capture that in different ways so that it can talk to different people.
Do you have a piece that you'd like to share with us up close?
I do, yes. It's this little guy here, kind of small, and the reflection's really hard, but I'm going to take him out so you can kind of see it better.
So, and all of Caitlin's pieces are basically ready to hang pretty much, yeah.
Yes, they all are framed. I love taking them out because I love being able to feel them and see the texture. I don't know if you can really see it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But you can kind of see. But yeah, so this one is inspired kind of by stories that I heard growing up that changed my life, and then how I think the stories I will tell about it will then influence my daughter. I grew up being told stories of my mom's through hike of the Appalachian Trail, and I decided to then hike it myself. I don't know, it was a really life-changing experience, taking 6 months off after college and just going and making my way up the East Coast from Georgia to Maine. I met my husband and beforehand, and then we hiked the thing together. So I don't think our lives would have been where they were today. It was a really rewarding experience that I had. So if you look closely, there's a little trail kind of winding up through the nature. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're stunning. I find myself when I pull up your pieces, always magnifying them, and just because there's something really powerful about being able to see the intricacies of nature in a piece of art. It translates, which is really unbelievably powerful. So yeah, again, so we have two different fiber kinds of artists here in the show between you and Lisa. And we also have some other stitching that artists do in different kinds of things. But we're just delighted that you're back. And we look forward to showing everybody all of your pieces. So thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, I'm excited to be part. So thank you.
So this is Jon Koenigsberg. And we were delighted when Jon said yes to joining us for this show because of the unique art he creates.
Well, I don't know anybody that's named Alexander Calder. Never heard of the guy. He's a jerk. But I do have a story since we are doing stories we tell.
Yes.
And I'd like to tell that if that's okay.
Oh, I would love to hear more about how you got started in mobiles.
15 years ago, I finished building a house and I framed it. I did almost all the work myself. And at the end, I was emotionally, spiritually, physically exhausted. And so I took a break from making artwork. And up to that point, I'd been doing figurative paintings and figurative drawings. So when I was done, I started back to painting. I tried to get back into painting, but the rigors of construction had made me very, what's a polite way of saying, retentive. Okay, and so I had these little tiny paintings, and I had the tiniest brush I could, and I was painting these portraits of people that I was just making up out of my head, and I had reading glasses on, full sunlight, and I was frustrated, and so I had all this construction trash left over. Copper wire, copper flashing, things like that. So I picked it up, I grabbed my torch and my snips, and I started making mobiles. And the first ones were god awful. They were just terrible. But then after a while, they got better, and then they sort of turned into things like this.
Wow.
So this is copper, and it's balanced very nicely. I drill each one of those holes myself, and I add a patina to it, so it turns green. And after I did that for a while, making copper mobiles, I got tired of that, and I started making painted aluminum mobiles. And then I turned into wood mobiles, and you can see that they're getting tangled up on me. But that's essentially my story.
So what do you love about how they come together and what happens with them once they're completed?
Well, when they're completed, I mean, when I start making a mobile, the first thing that happens is I envision it in my head. It usually comes at a moment of zen, like when you're falling asleep, right before you fall asleep, that gray zone, or when you're driving on the interstate and you're zoning out. I think we've all done that. They pop into my head, and it takes about 15 seconds for me to figure them out, and then I just go build them. When I'm done with them, it's a completely different feeling for me because they really don't surprise me. I know how they're going to move. Only one mobile has ever surprised me in the way that it moves, and I don't have one like that anymore. But I love to watch the way that they move, both in the wind or just the natural convection current comes up, because every mobile has two forms of movement. One is when it actually physically moves, and the other one is the implied movement of of the composition of the mobile itself. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does. Well, and I think what I loved about a number of the pictures that you've shared is the shadows they create.
Shadows are fun. Yes, I agree.
Now, how difficult are these to hang? So if I add one to my collection, how would I go about making sure that it's hung the right way?
Well, they have one balance point. Like, for example, this one has one balance point right there. That's all it takes. I provide fishing monofilament line, and I provide an eye hook. So all you have to do is find the place where you want it, hold it up, make a little hole with a thumbtack, screw in the eye hook, and then just tie it up. And it's done. It's a piece of cake.
And so they're fairly light then.
They weigh ounces.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it was so fun when you said yes to joining us for the show, because this is a style of art that we haven't had in a previous show before. And the beauty is it just, I think, shows us all that there's so many different styles and unique ways to express yourself.
I agree.
in art. Well, and I love the color combinations too.
Well,
So
thank you.
for joining us tonight. Thank you for being part of the show. I had to laugh at some
My
of your
pleasure.
descriptions on things. So make sure you read the artist stories on every piece because artists have lots of stories on that. So we will see you next week, Jon.
Thank you.
Hi, Dorothy.
Hi.
So this is Dorothy Mohler, and we discovered your work, I think, someplace on Instagram, and we're immediately wowed by what it is that you do. And we were thrilled when you agreed to be part of the Stories We Tell show. And you have a story to share with us. You named your collection Old Trails and Young Horizons. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I was very lucky to be raised by some parents that just, whenever they had a break from work, we just got in the car and we took off across the country. And my mom was very passionate about the environment, so I learned a lot about everything there is about nature. And then my father was a history buff. And so we would just take off. We wouldn't be on the interstate for very long. We saw a dirt road and we took off. And so later on, when I was 14 and my parents actually had divorced, my father and I one summer followed a portion of the Oregon Trail in California. It was an offshoot of the Donner Party Trail. Actually, it was called the Apoc Trail. And that really ignited my passion for history and this fascination that I have for the Oregon Trail, and just like this curiosity that I have for like what the pioneers did and the trials and tribulations that occurred for these people that travel across these paths and journeys. And then we only made it like 1 week. We only made it across this trail a little bit of the way. He had to go back to work, and then the next summer we followed the next portion of it, and we got to see all of their carvings, and we got to see the wagon wheel ruts, and it was just really exciting. So my collection of 10 paintings has a lot to do with trails and possibly, in my imaginations, what some of these people saw along the way.
Now, the colors that you use aren't always exactly the colors that you might see in nature. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I just sort of have this theory that, like, I am never, ever going to be able to paint anything as beautiful as Mother Nature makes it. I just am not. And so I tend to just let her have her glory. And then I play around in my mind a little bit with, in my palette, with what I see. And so I've changed some of the colors of maybe a meadow or a tree or a sunset or a trail or whatever. And so I have a little fun with that.
You do, and it shows. It shows. So what medium do you use?
I paint, my base medium is acrylic, and then I do some intuitive markings with crayons, and then I do some detailed work at the end, sometimes with pen and ink or chalk pencil. So there's a lot of layers involved, and I always paint on wood.
Oh, now do you have a piece that you could show us?
Of course I do. So this is one of my favorites from the show. It's called She's Running Towards Everything. And it just sort of is sort of a happy piece. My imaginings of like maybe a woman that's like at the end of her journey and she's gotten there, and she just sees the end of her path, and she's decided to all of a sudden start skipping, and she's taken off, kind of thing.
I love that one too. They do tell a story together. It's really a beautiful, cohesive kind of collection. And so welcome aboard, my friend. And
well, thank you for asking me. I'm really honored. It was a push to get this collection. I've never done a 10-piece collection before. So thank you. And I hate you.
And we accept that and are so glad that we pushed you, because it was worth the push, I think.
I really am grateful. Thank you so much.
And now we have Bryan Holland. Bryan, welcome.
Hey. Hello, welcome. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I could just stare at the view behind you like the whole night. So tell us about your love of animals and how that started.
Well, I actually grew up in small town Minnesota. When I was a kid, I was always the one going out. I would just walk out in nature. We lived in a valley, and there was a river that ran through the valley, and ponds, rivers, rocks. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Just lots of great places for a kid to go exploring. And just, I don't know, I just somehow found myself gravitating towards animals. They go to a pond and I could find frogs or toads and snakes, all kinds of different things, insects, grasshoppers. I mean, anything, it was just fascinating to like go out wandering and see what you could find. And sometimes the things would come home with me for a little bit, to the dismay of my parents, I think at times, but it was just natural. I just was always there.
Yes. Well, and the breadth of animals that you paint. I mean, you have a polar bear and you have a Cape buffalo. And I mean, it's just kind of surprising how many different animals you incorporate into your work.
Yeah, I can remember like obviously these animals weren't something that I would see on a regular basis when I was a kid. I have had probably like some different experiences. Like about 4 years ago, I did actually go on a safari to Africa. So I mean, like some of these animals were ones that I had seen, like the Cape buffalo. Rhinos, unfortunately, I did not see when I was there. I saw one like through the binoculars, and it was like about that big. You could barely make it out, but it was just I don't know. I think just my interest and fascination in animals grew up. I can remember certain animals, like I had this bison toy when I was a kid, and I loved it. I mean, I'd never seen a bison, but there was just something about the animal that I found very fascinating, I guess.
Now, let's talk about your large painting. No, the painting with her. Oh, yeah, actually, we can't see the whole
It's right
thing.
down there.
So that's your largest painting for the collection. Tell us about that painting.
I started becoming interested, I think, in animals and birds when I was in grad school. And one of the things that also now kind of started to come along, I think, when we were talking and getting things lined up for the show, was that the narrative component was something that had started to come back into play in my work. And so I was really excited to be a part of the show. So with the narrative component, I like that there is something to maybe make the viewer ask questions without necessarily having everything, even in my mind, resolved. Or even if I have certain ideas, I'm not trying to say force those on the viewer, because I want them to bring in their own ideas and their own experiences and sort of complete the story or add to the story. So I like these things where maybe there's some things that are a little bit more puzzling, where the viewer can bring in their own component to the piece.
So what's the title to that piece?
The title of this piece is, I'm not sure if I'm going to say this correctly because it's in Latin, but it's the base word where we get our word remembrance. So it's rememoratio.
So your focus was on remembering as you created this piece?
Not at the start, actually. Well, I shouldn't say that, because one other component with my work that factors in from time to time is environmental concerns, just concerns with, in this case with the rhino, say like poaching or habitat loss, a number of different concerns that are facing pretty much everything on the planet right now, at one form or another. And so, I mean, there is kind of that sense of, we want to remember, but it's also sort of, yes, we do have rhinos now, but, is that going to be something that our kids will, or future generations will be around? Will they be able to see them?
Yes, they're such powerful, unique animals.
And like everybody else's work, these are all on a cradled panel. Here's another rhino, for example, but they're all cradled panel. I leave the sides just as a wood, clear varnished. So it sort of becomes kind of like a frame, but they're, very clean and minimal.
Well, they're beautiful. And I'm really thrilled that the Stories We Tell theme has inspired you, and actually the other artists. It's amazing what a difference a powerful theme can make.
Well, I've done theme shows before, and I think theme shows are fun because they sort of get you out of your maybe your routine or your rut that you might be in, and gets you to think about things a little differently and explore things.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for the show, Bryan. And I can't wait
Pleasure.
to see all of your work. I have a special place in my heart for the African animals. I've been lucky enough to go on safari too.
Did we lucky enough to see rhinos?
Actually, we did. We did.
Yeah.
It was
Nice.
amazing. We'll have to talk about it off camera, but
yeah.
There's something magnificent about all of the incredible animals and beauty that surrounds us in nature. And your artwork always reminds me of that. So thank you.
And if you see them, yeah, you're welcome. Yep.
Jane, oh my goodness, Jane, you have some of your jewelry on. It's awesome.
Well, yeah, like the other people, they can't necessarily put their paintings over their head, or they could. I mean, why not just a wearable, just strap a rope on a painting and maybe put another one on the back and walk around. I mean,
like sandwich boards. It's Jane Pellicciotto.
Yeah.
Did I do it right? Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted so much to make sure that I was pronouncing your name right. So Jane is one of our amazing jewelers tonight. And Jane, can you talk a little bit about your process and the materials that you use in your work?
So I should just say that I'm a second career artist. So I've been a graphic designer for like 30 years. And when I turned 50, I just felt a really strong urge to put a personal body of work out into the world. I mean, I've done all sorts of art and craft and everything through the years, but I just kind of felt, I mean, maybe for ego reasons, I kind of felt like I wanted the powers that be out in the world to decide whether, just like it's a lifetime of building an aesthetic, except that when it's applied to business work, you don't really know what your aesthetic is, or but you don't really become intimate with it until you actually make stuff. And I kind of felt like I wanted that challenge of, creating a serious enough body of work that I was like putting it into the world. And I felt like I needed that kind of pressure. And so I started with metalsmithing, and I landed on jewelry for a few reasons, but I like the scale of jewelry, and I also like the sort of rapid process. Like, I'm somewhat impatient and I like to see kind of immediate results. Not that I don't have a million unfinished projects lying around all over the place, but I started as a metalsmith, and then I slowly added a little bit of color via enamel on copper. But then several years ago, I just felt this need to work with something softer. And I just think with everything crazy going on in the world, I think I needed something that was soft and gentle and not loud and hammering and sawing. And so I think I was kind of responding, and I'm a very tactile person and a very process person. So polymer clays is what's kind of constituting a big percentage of my work right now. I mean, I still do metalsmithing and, work that I need to produce that uses other materials, but I just feel like being someone of new material, I feel like it could take me decades to become an expert, whatever that means, So most of the pieces in this show are polymer clay. And a couple of them are on the wall right there. Not all of them are for the show, but I also, because of my graphic design background, I really have always loved typography. And so I used to do an image transfer process much in the same way that 2D artists will do to put line art onto like their acrylic paintings, but it's usually with a gel medium that they need to lift the toner off the paper. But in the case of polymer clay, because of the tackiness of the unbaked clay, you can just put the ink toner from a laser printout, not an inkjet, and wet the paper, and then just keep rubbing and wetting until all the paper comes off. So I do have a couple of pieces that I don't really have anything conceptual for the stories we tell. Like, I'm kind of cheating because most of my work has typography on it, but I'm more of a formalist. So I don't do like narrative conceptual stuff. I'm more about line and form and color and pattern. And so I really stressed myself out. Like, I thought I had to do something related to that. And I'm like, well, I've got typography all over my pieces. So, some of the pieces, like this is an example of these are just like abstract letter forms that I design in Adobe Illustrator. And it's just kind of overlapping typography. It doesn't say anything. And that's what I've transferred onto onto the clay. But I also have some pieces where I have some script, which is actually a rubber stamp. I'm very particular about typography, but I found a rubber stamp in this used craft store that's really beautiful, but it's all abstract. There isn't even a word that's readable. So maybe it's Latin. I don't know. Although actually the word love is the only word that is readable in the middle of that rubber stamp. And so when I would take my round cutters and cut holes out, I would purposefully, so some of these pieces might have a little secret love on them somewhere. And so what I was doing in some of that case is actually pressing the rubber stamp into there's a lot of shimmer, not in a like blingy way, but a lot of really subtle shimmer. There's some gold mica powder that I'm mixing into the clay. There's also some bronze powder and silver powder mixed into some of the clay. So there's a little bit of a subtle shimmer in all these pieces. And then I'm pressing I mean, it sounds very crafty. So, so I'm pressing the rubber stamp into like metallics and then pressing it into the clay. And then when it bakes, it's just basically a part of the, process. So most of these pieces have kind of a combination of sans serif, like straight lines, and then the script on there, and a lot of circles. I mean, I told you I sort of started late, and I'm like, I don't know, I just got to start with something. So there's two of these pieces. The other one is the other one has like orange and gray accents, and this has kind of like chocolate brown, vanilla, and gold.
Yes. Well, and so one of the beautiful things about your pieces is each of those segments can be removed. So
yeah, I mean, so what I did is I'll show you the back of this one. They all have like some kind of a bail here that can slide off. This is actually just a stainless steel wire, which is actually welding rod. Because I cannot find the wire I need anywhere. So yeah, so somebody can just wear 3 or 2, or they can even just wear 1. So it's kind of changeable. So
multiple pieces. You know what? You delivered a gorgeous collection, and I can feel the stories in them. When I look at every piece, it actually comes through. So whether you were meaning to or not, or however, it feels that way to me. It feels like each piece tells its story.
Well, some of it for me is also about, I mean, I do actually have some secret little messages like stamped on the back of a couple pieces. So one of these is just kind of like a trio of stones that have just some really subtle little markings in metallic bronze, and they're formed over river rocks. So they're actually hollow forms, even though they look kind of heavy. But in the back of this one, I have stamped letters that say stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. So a couple of my pieces do have little, not too sappy, inspirational messages in the back in case you need a little reminder. Make beautiful messes is another message that's stamped in the back of one of the pieces, because I always like to kind of remind myself of that, that we make mistakes and we make messes, and not everything is supposed to be perfect, and it's how we learn. And so I like to embrace that message.
Well, thank you, Jane. So you are surrounded with so much beautiful color.
Yes, that's my thing, color.
So this is Terry Scopes, and Terry, this is our first show with you, and we are so excited you're here.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited about all the other artists. They're amazing artists in this show, so I'm glad to be a part of it.
It's stunning. So you work mainly, or your focus of your work is mainly floral. So tell us about that.
Well, I didn't start out that way. I'm an abstract painter purely at first, and then I did abstract minimal landscapes. And then I was asked to do a floral by a friend in wild colors. And so I did that and, posted it on my website and Instagram. And the response was kind of overwhelming. So people love flowers. I didn't realize how much. And then my flowers are wild, whether they're in a pot or not. I put many, many layers of paint on, and there's sanding and scraping. I do a lot of fine marks, a lot of scribbles with graphite. And my inspiration for that is we live in an older neighborhood in Salt Lake, and the gardens are amazing. And my kids, when they, two little girls would go, unfortunately, pick neighbors' flowers and bring them home to me. And we would, find a can or a jar or a pot and put them in, and they'd be dripping with water. People seem to respond to that. My paintings have all those little details in them. And then one lady said to me, they're like people, we're not perfect. And I kind of feel like they are like people. They have all kinds of flaws, but that's what gives them energy, and I think makes them fun. Flowers bring me joy. And I am fortunate to live in the Wasatch Mountains, and in the late summer, the wildflowers are amazing. I paint the color not as the flowers, but how they make me feel. And, when you're hiking along and everything's brown and green, and then you come upon a field of wildflowers, it's magical. And so I just want my paintings of flowers to be joy makers.
Yes,
and I
yes.
think the colors are what make them joyful.
I hike as well, and it's always such a beautiful surprise,
Yeah, and you don't pick those. You just have to take a picture in your head and come home and remember those. But I want the flowers to all feel like, there's a breeze blowing, or you can just take a moment to pause and see them.
Yes, well, and I love, again, the colors that you put into all of them. There's some really powerful paintings in this upcoming show that I think everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
It makes such a beautiful statement and a beautiful reminder of
yeah, they kind of embrace the cycle of life. There's drips, there's falling leaves, there's all kinds of stuff going on, just like there are in life. Flowers are, I think, a perfect analogy for that. So
they are. Well, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing your whole collection next week.
Okay, I'm excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Guess who's next, lady?
Oh no.
Your turn.
Okay, well, I guess I'm ready for my turn. So let me.
So my first question to you is, how are you doing?
A little nervous still, but I'm excited. I mean, I've loved hearing from everybody tonight.
It's been great.
Yes, it's been wonderful. So
how did you approach the theme of the stories we tell?
I was excited about this theme, like most people were. And I think it's because I feel like my paintings tell a story. There was a painting that I started, months and months and months ago, before I decided that I would be part of the Stories We Tell show. And it included letters that were 150 years old. So one of my friends, when her parents died, they went back to the family home to go through all of the things that were left. And there were boxes and boxes and boxes of letters. And so they went through them and they picked the most important letters to them. And then she brought over a shoebox full of letters that were from family members and friends, and the letters that we 150 years from now probably won't exist because we're all texting and we have this amazing technology to be able to stay in touch. But there's something beautiful about knowing somebody actually hand wrote those notes to each other, and the special thing behind being excited about a letter.
There's something real special about this piece.
Yes, talk about it. So I wanted to show you this piece, and this piece is called Setting Sail. And this is the painting that started months and months ago. And I've always been fascinated by paper boats. And so this paper boat was created out of those letters. And there are letters contained in every single painting that I created for the show. Some are very visible like this, and some are somewhat hidden. But the exciting thing about this one is that this section of the sail looks very different because this was a pressed flower in one of those letters that somebody was sending to somebody else with love. And so 150 years ago, they were pressing flowers. And of course, it fell apart when they opened the letter. But I just thought it just really represented the communication across the ages and how much we have in common still about, again, the beauty of flowers that we've just talked about and the special nature of sharing those things with each other. So you can actually read some of the handwriting here on some of it, and there's some dates on here too. So this painting, I guess in most of our paintings, we're in the stories. And so what this painting meant to me is that there are times when, even though I'm afraid, that I'm willing to get in the boat and see what happens. And some days, and it'll be in the story on when you look through every, artists have added stories to a number of their different pieces. But basically, there's some days when they're shore days. I'm not even dipping my toe in the water. There's other days where it's like, well, I don't know. And then an opportunity presents itself and I just have to jump into the boat and just go for it. And so this painting has a real special place in my heart because these letters carry such history with them. There was love written in them. I'm sure there were probably disagreements written in them as well. But these are things that were gifted to me, that it was such an honor to receive them. And I hope that as they get incorporated in my art for this show and shows moving forward, that I am honoring them the way that I should. So I'm excited about this one.
Oh, that was such a beautiful story. I was all teary, and it's such a beautiful painting. I love it. And who doesn't love a painting that you can read? I love words.
Talking about text, we've talked a lot about text with people.
Do you want to show your little tiny one?
Oh, I have a little one as well. And as many of you know, okay, well, I love animals too. So a lot of us have a lot in common here. And this one is called Under the Covers, and it has the letters here. They're actually being blanketed with the letters on this particular thing. And it makes me laugh because I'm sure many of you who have animals at home can relate to this. And that is, you climb in bed and then you are like trapped because you are surrounded by the animals who just want to be next to you, loving on you and hugging you in their own way. And I'm always, you have that moment in the middle of the night where it's, I have to get up. Now, what am I going to do? So that's what this little one is for. But I will say all of the pieces are mixed media pieces. And the stories we tell, I think all of us tell stories in everything that we create. And we really put a lot of passion and energy in what we're doing. So I'm just so honored to be in this amazing group of artists. And it's just a thrill. I'll talk to the artists here. I mean, jaw-dropping work. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's just a beautiful show. We had a few artists that weren't sure that they would be able to make it because of technology issues or family issues. And so we really highly encourage you to take a look at Susan Gunther's work and take a look at Janine Pinnell's work, because their work is also spectacular. Susan does jewelry, so you can take a look at all of her pieces. She's got a variety of pieces. And Janine Pinnell does sculpture, so we have some 3D pieces from Janine. And we're so sorry that they couldn't make it tonight to talk to you, but you can definitely find their blog posts and information about them on the website, and you'll definitely be impacted by the work they have. In closing, thank you all so much for joining us. I mean, it's just fun to bring artist stories to you because there's so much behind every piece they create. They are really special and unique people, and we love working with all of them. So the show opens a week from today, but it's 10 a.m. in the morning Mountain Time. So make sure you're on the Artburst website at 10 a.m. on February 22nd. Log into your account if you have one. That'll give you a little bit of a benefit, and you'll be able to get in quick if you find a piece that you absolutely love. But a week from today, all of the showpieces, 240 plus original pieces of art will be revealed. So don't forget to subscribe and create your account in advance. If you have an account, you'll receive a 24-hour advance preview of all the show artwork, because you're going to have a difficult time prioritizing your list, I think. And so that'll give you a head start there. So make sure that we sync our watches and we set our alarms, and we'll look forward to seeing you a week from today. So thank you to all the artists who joined us. Thank you for everybody and all the art lovers and collectors who came, all of you on Facebook who are watching the streaming version, and we'll see you in a week.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.